Hey everyone, welcome to the Sackhoff Show. Happy Tuesday. I am so glad that you are here. This is a really special episode. I want to remind you all really quickly, though, to stick around for the hindsight. If you haven't done that, it's where we talk about the episode. And for today, that's going to be really important. I'm just going to get into it. Today's guest is the wonderful Brent Spiner. If you don't know Brent, he's from Star Trek The Next Generation, Independence Day, way back in the day, Night Court. I have been a fan of his for so many years, not only him as an actor, but just him as a person. He's such a wonderful, wonderful human being. I just adore him. You will notice in this episode, well, we had a few hiccups, to say the least. It will become obvious what I mean as you're listening or watching this episode. And then he and I both had some near-death experiences during this episode. His side will become clear when you listen and watch the episode, mine in the hindsight. You'll also notice that his sound is a little off in the beginning, the first part of this, which will also be, well, you get the point. It will all become clear as you listen to the episode and then join us for the hindsight. It's a great episode. So I am so excited for you to be here. I also want to remind you all that we have a Patreon. Yay, I know. If you are interested in the Patreon, it is patreon.com/The Sackhoff Show. So go ahead, check that out. There's a free week trial if you want to give it a try. And we just are very excited for you to be there and join this community that we've been forming for the last 2 years. I am going to get out of your way because this episode has been a long time coming. We started this process 5 months ago. And it's finally here. So I will finally get out of your way and let you get to know my wonderful friend, Brent Spiner, a little bit better. How close was that last Malibu fire to you guys? Because it was like a month ago.
All right. Well, it didn't come our way, the last one.
Okay.
Because we used to live in Malibu. In fact, we had to leave our house and we had all kinds of smoke damage. We lucked out. It didn't burn down. But so we moved and we're in the Palisades. And that fire was terrible, but not as bad as it could have been the last month. This is anybody's guess what's going to happen because it's all of LA. It's all the way down to San Diego. They're saying, beware, because these winds have never happened like this before.
Really?
Yeah, they're the strongest winds apparently in years and years and years and years. And
wow.
And it's dry, so fire.
I was going to say that it's because it's super windy here too. And I wonder if it's just all along the West Coast right now, or if they're two completely different, like separate sort of wind weather events.
I can't. I'm calling Al Roker as we speak. I want to answer to that.
Right.
Right. I don't know.
Because 60% of the time they're right all the time.
Exactly. But I'm certain I can see the winds outside. So
really,
yeah.
Are you guys up high or down low in where you're at?
We're not we're not in the mountains, so we're kind of in the flats. So I'm not that worried. I
used to live right off of Will Rogers.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Will Rogers was like our backyard.
That's a dangerous area. What?
Yeah.
I mean, for fires and things like that. Where do you live now? Where are you?
We moved to Portland.
Oh, no kidding.
A year and a half ago. So when you were signing on, it made me laugh so much because are you technologically challenged?
Completely. I mean, when we set this up this morning, first of all, I had to have my son come in and walk me through it, and I was panicked because the Zoom link was on my phone, but for some reason it was not on my computer. And I was like, oh my God, it's not on my, and he said, not to worry, not to worry. He's very calm.
The irony is very funny to me.
Well, I mean, I just learned lines. I didn't learn the science necessarily.
Did you have a trick to memorizing the science jargon?
You know what? I had the only thing I did was I made a deal with myself that I could not go to sleep at night until I could say it out loud perfectly at least one time. And if I screwed up, and if I screwed up at all, I had to start again. And so at least the next morning, I knew I could do it because I had done it. But it was just horrible rote learning. And
is it repetition for you?
Yeah, and it was like learning the phone book. And we had a lot of guest stars, wonderful actors who would come in and not be able to do the scene. And they'd stumble and they go, I knew this last night. And they knew it in their minds, but their mouths didn't know it. And that's critical, is knowing you can get your mouth around words you've never said before and that have no literal meaning. So, that was key to it, was being able to say it out loud every night. And so, needless to say, I didn't get much sleep.
No, of course. You probably never slept. I got to a point where my husband would throw tennis balls at my face.
Yeah. Well, I'll try that.
It's hysterical. But no, we would play catch. And he wouldn't throw it to the same place. He would throw it different places, not hard, obviously. Yeah. But we would really play catch. And I knew that if I could play catch with him through a scene, that I had it memorized enough.
There you go.
Because I had to be able to do other things. And it's science. People don't understand. Sci-fi jargon is probably harder. I don't know. I can't say this. I was going to say probably harder than medical jargon. Have you ever played a doctor before?
I have played a doctor. Yeah.
Is it harder?
It's similar.
Okay.
It is. It's similar, except that generally what you're saying as a doctor exists. And that's the only difference, really. But
exactly.
The lack of knowledge is the same, at least on my part.
Right. I find it so difficult. Are there any lines that you still have memorized till this day?
No, because part of I do remember, no, I'm not going to say this, but I do remember that, what I would do is you had to erase it completely, so I could start again the next day. And, on the next night, journey of memorization. But we had an occasional guest star who would, I'd have this long speech of what we call technobabble. And did you call it technobabble?
I call it technobabble, yeah.
I don't know. I think we invented that. I don't know that for sure. But
really?
Yeah.
I'm sure you did. You guys have the show had been around for a long time at that point, I'm sure.
Yeah. But so we'd have an occasional guest. I'd have these long speeches and technobabble and just on and on and on, saying things I didn't have a clue what I was saying, but I had memorized it. And I'd get to the end of the speech, and their line would be, "Well, go on, continue." And I'd get to the end of that speech, and they'd say, "Was am I supposed to say continue?" And and then we'd start over. Katee, I'm just going to share with you this text from my son who said, "The fire is moving fast, and we might be evacuated. So it's up to you if you want to get off the call or not. I don't know what the timeline looks like, but right now I'm okay until he says we got to go." But he's texting me.
No, listen, honestly, we can reschedule this, Brent. And now you know how to get on.
And you know what?
the next time it'll be so much faster.
I think this will keep the audience on edge, just like us, or not. We're good. Let's keep going.
Okay. Well, please tell him. Don't wait to the last minute. Like, I don't want to. Like, we don't want to see. Like, if you start sweating.
Yeah.
We've taken it a little too far.
Well, yes, you're absolutely. Well, wait a minute. I'm already sweating. What does that mean?
Well, so am I.
No, yeah. Okay. Well,
but honestly, please, we can absolutely reschedule this. If you have to get up, no explanation needed. We will figure it out.
I'll tell you if it happens, and
Okay.
and then I'll let the audience know too.
Oh my God, please do.
Yeah.
Please do. But if you could actually stop recording before you run out of the room though and email us that.
Yes, I will.
Make sure that that side is actually preserved. That would be really helpful.
Absolutely.
You had such a, from a person looking at your career, because I remember watching you on Night Court and being blown away. You played one of my favorite characters on Night Court. It was one of my favorite shows. I mean, I think everybody was that. It was that tune-in television where you didn't miss an episode because you'd never be able to watch it again unless you recorded it.
Right.
And though that character was his name, was it Joe?
Bob.
Yeah. Well, Bob Joe.
Yeah.
Bob and his wife were absolutely hysterical.
Well,
And
thanks.
so to me, you had such a broad career before Next Generation. And that is the thing that so many people know you from now.
Right.
But you had such an amazing, you have a phenomenal career. Did you know going into Star Trek that it was going to be what it was going to be? Did you hesitate taking it? Because you are such a character actor. Data is such a character. What was the thought process on taking the show?
Well, it was twofold. One, I liked the idea of having a job.
Touche.
Yeah. But on the other hand, I was nervous about it. And because I thought, is this going to, lock me into something that I'll never get out of? And I say that ironically.
You say that going into your almost 40 years.
Yeah, exactly. But we had a director on the pilot. Corey Allen was his name. Wonderful guy. Famously, if you've ever seen the movie Rebel Without a Cause, he's the guy who races James Dean and goes over the cliff.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a terrific actor, but he later became a director. He directed our pilot, and he was really encouraging to me during the auditions. And he called me just to say, "I love what you're doing, and keep doing that," because we had to audition several times, obviously. And he said, "I said, well, Corey, I'm not really sure I want to do this." And he said, "Well, we're not offering it to you. I'm just telling you, okay. But I did say it out loud to somebody of importance that I really wasn't sure I wanted to do it. I was just scared, that what would happen, what did happen would happen. And after the series went off the air, I did several other things. And so I was feeling very secure about that. But then we came back again, and we kept coming back with films, and then Picard, and then other things. And I've done so much of it, so many hours of it. It seems preposterous to even imagine that it isn't what I'd be identified with. But it's a great character to have been identified with on several levels. One, it's a beautiful character to play, and it's a character who plays many other things. And so I've been able to play several other roles within that role, and that's sort of been the blessing of it for me as a character actor.
This episode is brought to you by Green Chef. It's summer. I love summer, and it is so hot here, and I am eating it up. Speaking about eating, Green Chef makes it easy to spend less time in the kitchen and more time enjoying summer with their new Heat and Eat meals. Enjoy a delicious, wholesome meal in just less than 3 minutes. One of the best things about Green Chef, every one of these meals looks like a chef made it. It makes me look good in the kitchen, but also it's kid approved. Yes, kid approved. So I had the other night the lemon dill chicken and couscous soup. It doesn't sound like something a child would eat, right? No, it absolutely is. Lemon dill chicken and couscous soup. My daughter ate it up. The shrimp bowls with chipotle lime aioli, she loved it. And we also had this Middle Eastern style beef bowl, which she literally looked at me, you guys, and said, "Mommy, you made a real good dinner." It made me so happy, and she loved every single bite of it. Make this summer your healthiest yet with Green Chef. Head to greenchef.com/50Sackhoff and use code 50Sackhoff to get 50% off your first month, then 20% off for 2 months with free shipping. That's code 50Sackhoff, 50 Sackhoff at greenchef.com/50Sackhoff. It's sort of like the Cylons. Like, I was always so envious of the Cylons because they played so many different versions of themselves.
Right.
They were almost playing different characters every day. There it is.
It's emergency alert. Let's see what it says here. Yeah, I lost it, but I'm sure I'll get notified by my son if I have to leave.
Oh my God. If he comes running in and carries you out.
Yeah, I'll have to. Yes. He's not going to do
there
that.
There he is.
No. This is good, right? This is kind of keeping.
This is great.
This is drama.
TV.
This is drama, right?
This is life or death shit. This is like May sweeps or whatever.
Exactly. And and I say this with complete sincerity. Should I perish, we go through the roof. The numbers go through the roof.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
All right.
Joe Rogan, look out.
Yeah, exactly.
Coming for you.
Yeah.
Were you on paper who they wanted for Data?
How do you mean?
In the sense of, were you the right age? Were you sort of the right stature? Were you sort of who they had in mind, or did you go in having to convince them that obviously that you were the right guy, but like, did you foot the bill from the beginning? Was it a bunch of guys that looked just like you?
Well, they didn't all look like me. Can you imagine going into an audition and all the guys sitting there look exactly the same? I'm sure that does. Next-gen
episode.
Exactly. But, we received an evacuation notice.
Go.
I hate to do this.
Go.
Can we use any of this?
We'll use this and then we'll come back. It doesn't matter when it is. Just go. Don't worry about it.
All right.
Yeah.
So
Brent, just hit stop on that quick time and then we'll figure it out later, but be safe.
All right. I just did. I'm so sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
All right. Well, we'll do part 2 another time.
We will. We absolutely will. Take care of yourselves. And when you let us know you're okay when you get to where you're going.
Whoops, you're gone. I will.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. Bye, Katee. Thanks. I'll talk to you.
Yeah.
Take care.
Of course.
Bye.
Bye.
I want to show you what wind can do to a fire.
This is the Palisades fire burning right now.
Look at the burst of that flame.
The flames continuing to burn.
Approximately 166,000 residents are under evacuation warnings.
5 months later.
So what was I saying? Did I say something about?
You said something about there was a moment where you got a text message.
Yeah.
Something about a fire.
Yeah. There was a fire.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Well, that's why I am wearing the same clothes because all of my clothes
Because
were
this is all
burned.
you own.
Yeah, they're gone. Everything was gone.
I'm laughing.
I know. I mean, but we were
Because-
laughing at the time because who knew? I mean,
Who knew?
It was very vague too. The message I got. My son said there's a fire.
Because it was all in emojis.
Well, yeah,
was
exactly.
Eggplant, fire, water
Exactly.
squirt. You were like, there's either a fire or he's getting really lucky right now.
Yeah. Well, but he was upstairs and he said, "Hey, we may have to leave." And I said to you, I think you'll find that on the tape.
Yeah.
Apparently, there's a fire. I may have to stop, but let's just keep going until.
And you don't think so, was what you said.
I said, but I don't think so. Right. And then I get this text from him that said, "All right, we have to go." And
Well, even at that point, I believe the last thing you said to me is, we might be able to pick this up later today.
right, because and in fact, I went upstairs. We went outside. We could see the fire, and none of us, and many people felt this way. Felt that this was going to get out of hand, but. Almost immediately, 100 mile an hour winds came, and the thing just blew up. And so we left. My wife is very on it, and she's like, "No, we got to go." And we have a dog, and so she wanted to get the dog in the car. And she said, "Should we just take my car?" And both my son and I said, no, I'm going to take my own car. She said, "All right, meet me at so-and-so and we'll figure out what we're going to do." By then there was already traffic backing up on Sunset. And so we thought we really got to go. And I didn't think that we all looked at it and thought we'll be back in an hour.
Yeah.
And they'll get this out. We'll be back in an hour. We'll be, watching TV and I'll be doing a podcast with you.
Because they have before just put them out.
Yeah. And it didn't look that big. It really didn't. It was quite small at that point. And, but we weren't prepared we hadn't packed. We didn't take anything. I took my passport and I grabbed a bag that I had gotten for Christmas that was socks and underwear. And that's all I took. And, not my computer, not anything else. And they were laughing at me, my son and my wife, and until about the second or third day. And then...
And you had clean underwear and they were washing theirs in a sink.
And they stopped laughing. And they thought, God, it was a great move.
So smart.
Yeah.
It was absolutely, and still is absolutely, just devastating.
Oh, it is. It really is. And, to be clear, it's much more devastating for other people. I mean, we lost everything in the house. We were renting our house, so we didn't. We're not paying a mortgage, but we had the means to keep going, even though, lost all of our artwork that we'd collected for 50 years.
Oh my
God.
God.
Furniture and all of our clothes, all three of our clothes, everything. And because nothing made it. And, but there are people who just can't recover from it because they're not able to. Their house was everything and their belongings, and they didn't have any insurance. We had renter's insurance. And so we're not suffering on the level that a lot of people are, and I'm very grateful for that. But nonetheless, it's a shock, and you're reminded of it on a daily basis because you say, well, somebody mentions something, and you wind up saying, "Oh, I have." Well, no, I don't. I had one of those, and it was. I think it was much harder on my wife and son. We lost things that were really important beyond the material things. I mean, all of his journals that he kept since he was a little boy, all of my wife's videos of him as a child, and photos of things we did even before he was born, things of her mother's who that meant so much to her. It's just very hurtful. But, and then there's a flip side to it where you're sort of, if you do have the means to recover your life, there is something about just the adventure of life, and it's part of this grand adventure. And sometimes, I remember years ago reading that Orson Welles' house had burned down, and he lost many scripts that he'd written and things like that. And his comment was, I think everybody should lose everything at least once in their lives. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what the result of it all is. But I know a lot of people are really suffering. And
I think it's weird. You mentioned those things, like the things that you don't think about, the things that aren't material.
Right.
The memories and the things like that.
Yeah.
But I also am so just blown away that people are still paying a mortgage.
Yeah.
On nothing.
Yeah.
That to me is criminal.
Well, I know. And I mean, I think they have, a lot of lenders have made concessions and given them time that they wouldn't ordinarily have had. But then there's all kinds of, we're lucky we had insurance, but still it's a daily grind. And particularly for my wife, who's taken over most of that, you have to account for everything you had, and you have to try to remember everything you had, and when you bought it and what the replacement value would be, and you've got to research it and find out. And it's a lot of work. I
mean, remembering everything you had is crazy.
It really is. It really is.
It's crazy.
Because every now and then you go, oh, wait, do you remember that I had that too?
Yes.
Yeah.
We had that just in a move.
Yeah.
I mean, where you get there, you unpack, you live your life, and then all of a sudden one day you look in the corner and go, didn't we have a metal plant holder? Where did that go?
Yeah.
We've unpacked all the boxes. And then you go, oh, wait, I'm also that marble rolling pin. Where's the marble rolling pin?
Right.
And then you're like, but if the marble rolling pin is missing,
I know.
It's not just floating around by itself. It was in a box.
Yeah.
What else was in that box?
Right. I've had that happen too. We've moved a couple of times and things have just disappeared. And then you forget about them. I had these great little martini glasses that I bought at Harry's Bar in Florence. And I'd forgotten all about them. And then I went, hey, what happened to those glasses that we got? Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? I even called the moving company, though, and I was like, I am positive 3 boxes are missing.
Yeah.
Nope.
Well,
nope.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they are.
But they're missing.
Yes.
I know they're missing.
That's right.
So what are you gonna do? Do you know? Like, have you?
No. I mean, we're renting again. That process was also
crazy,
awful. Yeah, because so many people were out of their homes and needed a place to stay. So the rush to get a rental was just crazy. But we also, again, we got lucky. This is an interesting story. I say that. I always hate saying that because it really...
Could you imagine? I just like this.
Yeah, exactly.
There's nothing interesting about that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like I hate when people say, you think that's funny.
Listen to this one.
Yeah. So we have a friend who's a realtor in Malibu, and we lived in Malibu for 18 years. And so he said, look, let me help you guys. And he knew some guys who had a place in Malibu that they wanted to rent. And we weren't crazy to go back to Malibu because of the traffic situation.
Yeah. Well, and didn't you guys live in Malibu?
We lived there for 18 years.
Before? And there was another fire?
Yeah, there was a fire, the Wolseley fire in Malibu. Our house survived that one. But we had a lot of smoke damage, and we thought, let's leave and go someplace where we're not going to be dealing with fires. Anyway, we're back in Malibu. And But so we went in, and Lori, my wife, she met the guys and who were renting their place, and she said, do you guys live here usually? And they said, no, we live in Beverly Hills. And she said, oh, where do you live? And they said, on Tower Road. She said, oh, what address? And he told her the address, and she said, we sold you that house 22 years ago.
No.
Yeah. And they still live there in the house we
sold them.
Sold them. And
maybe that's where your martini glasses are.
It could be.
Yeah.
But in this house we're renting, there was a big rattan table and chairs that we bought 22 years ago that were in that house that they moved out to this house.
Wow.
And that's our table. We bought it 22 years ago.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. I mean, I sat down and the table said, where you been? And,
that is interesting.
There you are.
Thank you for that.
All right.
Yeah. With everything that's going on, like in sort of like with the fire in Los Angeles, there's been so many shifts in the industry. It seems like the strike happened, changed the industry. Well, COVID happened first,
right? Then
the strike. This fire changed the business because so many people in our industry lost their homes.
Right.
How have you navigated this industry for so many years?
Well, it's certainly gotten more difficult. And I don't know that I can really speak to what's happened just because, sort of a natural kind of, you get older and the window starts closing and there's only so much you can do. I mean, I can't play a young guy anymore. So all those parts are out the window, you know. And so it now that there's so much production everywhere else and not that much in LA anymore.
Yeah.
It for me, it's just gotten much more difficult. But I think it's more a question for me of age and just being picky, and I wish I've always been, and sort of been my worst enemy in terms of, I don't really want to do that. And
picky in what way?
Well, I just want to be in stuff that I think is interesting, and that's, a reasonable person, certainly as an actor, a reasonable actor, just wants to work. And that was my objective when I was young, although I was even picky when I was young.
Really?
And, yeah. I think it was more a case of just being scared, if I would see something that I thought, I don't know if I could do this. I didn't do it. I didn't want to do it. I just, but in fact, I don't think I've ever thought I was going to be able to do any of the things that have come my way. I mean, I kind of look at everything and go, I'm going to be terrible in this. Oh, I can't possibly do this. And then, something happens and you stumble your way into some answers and some choices that make sense and turns out okay. But I just don't have that sort of, I'm going to be great attitude.
Where do you think that comes from?
I don't know.
And it's always been there?
Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, maybe there was a point, when you're really young and you're just starting out, you think you could kind of do everything.
Yeah. And
that you're right about everything. But it also, there's a world of talented people, and just hugely talented people who don't work at all. Yeah. And so I figure I've been really lucky. And but usually, and my representatives always really kind of get frustrated with the fact that I will tell them 2 or 3 people who would be better for the part than me, because there are so many great actors out there.
There really are. There really are. I mean, you're one of them.
Wow, thank you.
You had such a huge career before, and varied career before Next Gen.
I had done a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. But that is the thing that people seem to, and that character and that show, Next Gen. And I've asked so many people this, but what do you think it was about that show that has meant so much to not only Star Trek community, but the industry? It's never been remade. It's just...
Well, I've said before that I think it is the great American epic, and it goes on and on and on. Next year is the 60th anniversary of the original series.
Yeah.
And 60 years. And, they're still making Star Trek, and a lot of it. And I think they always will. I can't imagine it'll ever stop because Roddenberry's original concept, his idea was we've only explored it in the original series, in each iteration, so much of space. And he says there's so much more space. So how can it not keep going? But I think there are things like, there's always this idea that it represents a positive view of the future.
Right.
And that's what people embrace. And I'm not sure about that really. I'm not sure it does that really because people are still being blown out of the sky and people are carrying weapons and stuff like that, but on stun most of the time. But
you don't need to kill him.
Yeah. I think it's really, for me, I think it's that, and I think it's true of all space shows, not just in all futuristic shows, Star Wars and Battlestar and everything, is that it gives people a feeling that there's actually going to be a future. Because everybody is scared, and rightly so, that we're going to blow it as humanity. We are going to destroy this beautiful planet and existence that we've had. And there's something about seeing shows like Star Trek and other futuristic pieces that say, oh, no, we're going to survive as a species. We're going to keep going.
Yeah.
And I think it's comforting on that level.
Huh. I was speaking to someone who thought that Data was a representation of a neurotypical person. Do you see him that way? Do you sort of see him as being like a character that's like on the spectrum of some sort?
Well, I didn't initially, and I certainly didn't the entire time I was playing it. Certainly the character was, it was a great character to play because what he was doing was always searching for the essence of humanity. What did it mean? What was it to be a human? And exploring all the aspects of that and doing, putting on the clothes of different, different kinds of people to try to understand what it was to be a human. And it wasn't really until I started doing conventions and Comic-Cons and talking to people about it that I realized what it meant to people who were on the spectrum, to kids who, I've had so many kids come up to me and say, you were the only character I could identify with when I was, young and watching TV because I felt like an outsider. And that's what Data was. And it was nothing I did. There was nothing I did intentionally. And I'm glad that I didn't know, because if I had known, I think I would have pushed the writers to write towards that and would have blown the whole thing probably. But it's fascinating to me, and it's humbling to know that it had that kind of impact on kids who were suffering at the time. And I'm really happy about it.
Huh.
Yeah.
You've played that character in like 10 different projects.
Yeah, it seems like it. I think it's 1,000, isn't it?
At this point. But I feel like you've also said 3 times that you'd never play him again.
Yeah, I will never, by the way. But No, I would never say that again. I have to quote Sean Connery and say, never say never. You know? but because I have come back, even though I've said I couldn't do it again, initially I thought, well, Data's like, Data has to be young, I thought, because it's like Harpo Marx, you know. Harpo Marx was so wonderful when he was young, and there was something when Harpo got older, it didn't quite land the same way because he wasn't as angelic and childlike, and that childlike quality was not so endearing. And I'm talking about Data too.
Yeah.
Once he got old, and so I said, "Well, I can't do it. I'm too old to do it." And I was, but then, particularly where the Picard series was concerned, and particularly the third season of Picard, where I actually played Data again. That was just Terry Matalas came and had a great idea and a way to do it, and wasn't sure it was going to work. None of us were, and it I guess it landed. It seemed to make the fans happy anyway.
Yeah. Terry came on the show.
We did.
Isn't he wonderful?
Yeah, Terry's great.
Yeah. Do you have any plans to I mean, there's no more seasons of Picard, are there? It's
no.
done.
I mean, he was trying to get a show off the ground that didn't necessarily feature us, but I think, they wanted to continue the show with Jerry Ryan and some of the other actors who had been the younger actors who were in the third season of Picard, who could carry a show, and it would have been great.
Yeah. And
we would drop in from time to time, I think was the idea. It would have been interesting, and I think it could still happen. I don't know for us, but for Jerry, and they wanted to be, they called it legacy, and there's always hope that would continue. And I think the fans would like to see it, but there's a lot of other stuff that the people who run Star Trek have planned.
Where would you? I mean, Star Trek's been taken so many different places. Some of it has worked, some of it hasn't. But what do you have an idea of what makes it work and what makes it not work?
I don't really. I don't. I think it's about the people. Star Trek is really the main difference between Star Trek and, say, Star Wars, and because they always seem to be that's the big competition, but it really isn't, because they're about completely different things, and Star Wars really is just a grand adventure that's kind of good versus evil, and exploring that as much as they can.
It's about hope, I think, as well.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
An underlying theme for sure.
Exactly. And Star Trek is kind of this. It's the beauty of it is the ability to comment on what's happening now in our society from the perspective of the future. And so it's not exactly slamming you over the head with a hammer.
Right.
It can do it subtly and talk about issues in a subtler way, because it's doing it from a distance.
Yeah.
And so that is always valuable, I think. But when they put together a good cast, although I think they've all been good casts, I think every Star Trek show has had really good casts. And the ones that are running now, Strange New Worlds, has a great cast. The one that's coming that they've been working on, Starfleet Academy, has a really terrific cast. And I think it's about the relationships of the people and their chemistry. And, we were really lucky. I tell you, there was a thing initially when we started, Leonard Nimoy said, getting lightning in a bottle is like nearly impossible. So doing it twice is impossible. But then it happened, and I think it's continued to happen. I think there's just something about it that that works.
Where do your characters come from? Like when because you've played some pretty phenomenal characters.
Well,
where does the process start when you're creating them?
Sometimes I think I've been most successful when I've been perverse about it. I mean, in the sense that, we're taught as actors we're there to illuminate the writer's intent. I mean, that's the idea. And sometimes, and again, I think when I've been most successful and when I've actually gotten hired is when I've found the exact opposite and a way to do it that is exactly the opposite of what was intended. And then it becomes original somehow and different. Because now it's so hard when you audition now, the whole process is so bizarre compared to, you're not as old as me by a long shot, but when I don't know.
I feel it today.
Do you?
I do.
You look fine. But,
thanks.
Yeah.
It's this headache.
I know. You got a terrible migraine. I wish I could do something about that.
It's just right there.
Yeah.
It's right there. But anyway, sorry.
Is there something I can do? I don't know.
I wish.
Yeah.
No. I just, I know we talked about this a little bit.
It's tough to do this too.
It's a really, the hardest thing when you have a migraine is focusing.
Yeah. Which is, you certainly don't need to do that with me.
Well, and focusing when you're doing an interview is vitally important.
Of course. It's everything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I really am. I know
think it's actually hysterical that the first time we attempted this interview, there was a fire.
Right.
Which is much more traumatic and lasting than just a migraine today.
Yeah, now the fire's behind your eyes and it's like, here we go again.
It's in my stomach.
Oh, Lord.
Trying to not throw up.
I hope all of this makes it into the show.
It will.
Okay, good.
It's going to. We're not taking it out. Because people will be like, why is she so calm?
Yeah. I
Like
think
normally,
maybe they either think you have a migraine or it's awe.
I just awe, complete awe. I'm just like the legend.
Exactly.
But seriously, tell me where the characters come from.
Well, what I wanted to say was about the process, the auditioning process. Like, and I don't think, did you ever, I mean, when you started, for me, when I started, the deal was you get a call, you go audition, you go into a room, the director's there, you do your scene, and usually there were 2 scenes. If you could make it into the second scene.
Sometimes they were awful and gave you 4.
Right. And sometimes you would do 1 scene and they go, okay, thank you. And you're out of the,
Yeah.
But if you could get into the second one, you thought, well, I've got a shot at
because
this.
the second one was a good one.
Yeah. And because they weren't tired of you or they hadn't ruled you out yet. Mm-hmm. And, but the beauty of it was that they also, you could tell whether you had a vibe with the person who was the director, whether you had some kind of thing, where you thought, I could work with this guy, and they thought that of you. And they would often give you an adjustment to make in the scene. And if you could make that adjustment, it was an important...
Because they knew you could take direction.
Right, exactly. And maybe play the character. And now, because of the pandemic, which is really where it started, you do self-tapes. And
people have heard me talk about self-tapes a ton.
Well, I don't think any actors really love them. I mean, back in the day, I kind of liked every now and then they would say, can you make a tape? Or you couldn't make an appointment and you'd say, can I put myself on tape and send it? And you could do what you wanted, but I don't think I've ever gotten a job from a tape.
Either have I. I've never booked a job off tape.
I don't think I have either.
Ever.
And the process is so difficult because you've got to light it, you've got to
direct yourself.
Got to direct yourself. You've got to find somebody to read with you. and it just is alien. And then you wind up on a reel with I don't know how many other people doing the exact same material, and then you never hear anything about it.
Well, because your agency, come to find out, puts every person that's auditioning on one link.
Right.
Sends that to casting.
Right.
So the casting director knows, okay, there's 25 on this one. I don't even think they really watch them.
Well, I think there are some who would say they do and some probably do. And then some probably don't. But you also wonder if it ever gets to the director. You don't know. You have no feel of what's happening once you've done it and sent it.
Yeah.
I have this great guy who I go to his house, and he does everything, and he's a really good actor, and he's a director, and we work on it, and then he tapes it, and but
you get to work on it with him too.
Yeah, and I
great.
leave always thinking I'm going to get this part, and I never do. I never have from a tape.
No, me either. I always thought, for me, that I was better in the room.
Yeah.
Because people wanted to work with me.
Right.
And I always thought that, and maybe I've just convinced myself of this, but that my style of acting in person was much more like fire than on tape.
Yeah.
On tape, you can't really tell.
Well, you're just kind of doing it into a vacuum in a way, and there's no alteration. There's no try it again this time. Think about this.
Yeah.
There's none of that. It's like, well, if you don't get it right with your first choice, you're not going to get it. And
I know. And I've also thought, like, maybe I could send like 2 takes, like instead of just 1.
Yeah.
Like maybe I can send 2, because then it'll show that I've done something different.
Yeah, and you can do it completely differently. But who has time? They don't have time to watch all that.
No.
And I get it that for the director, it saves a lot of time and energy if he can just watch it, at home while he's eating dinner.
Like on fast forward.
Right. And you don't, it's also, like I was saying before, when you're in the room, if you get to that second scene, you thought, well, I've really got a shot at this. You don't know if you've gotten 3 seconds, 10 seconds into the first scene before they're bored with you.
I know.
And they're bored listening to the same thing over and over,
Yeah.
You're on a reel. And I don't know if, maybe in the days when you would go into an office and meet somebody, they would do your character, and then they would bring somebody else in to do a different character and break it up like that. But now you're on a reel with people doing the exact same material, one after another, and I feel like it's not because I haven't gotten parts that way, but maybe they're not getting the best performances.
Yeah.
Because they haven't really had a chance to, see them.
No, and I also think that, like, there are some people, and I've worked with some people like this, that are phenomenal auditioners. Like, they're just great on tape at home, but they're not great actors.
Right.
Yeah. Because for some people, they can do it 25 times.
Yeah.
They really, they hone it in, they edit it, they get it figured out, and then they send it off. For me, like, I'm lucky if, like, I've got 2 kids, juggling them. My husband, like, has 5 minutes to be able to put it on tape, and we do it 2 times. Yeah. And that's it. Yeah. That's what we've got, 2 times. And then I go, okay, well, hopefully that was enough.
Yeah. I know. I know.
And it hasn't been.
It has been or hasn't been?
It
It hasn't been for me either. Like I hate to feel this way, but I do feel sort of all taped out.
Yeah, I know.
Because I go in with this feeling now that I'm not going to get this. I never get this on a tape.
I know.
And, it's not like I haven't gotten cast before.
I know.
but I've gotten cast when someone's in the room with me.
Yeah. And everything I get now is an offer.
Yeah.
It all is. It's just every single thing is an incoming phone call.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, thank God.
Yeah, exactly. And that's sweet when that happens.
Yeah.
But even there's something about auditioning that if they've seen you already do it, that they know they made the right choice if they hire you.
Yeah.
And, I used to, when I have an offer, I thought, I'd really like to do it one time for you.
Just to make sure I'm what you really want.
Yeah, exactly. Because I don't want to get on the set and they go, oh, wait a minute, I've made the wrong decision here,
I know. I have that insecurity too.
Yeah.
Every time. It's the first time I open my mouth as the character in front of other people, I panic.
Oh, well, and this whole insecurity thing that is a part of all of us, that I'm certain that I'm going to be fired.
God, immediately.
Yeah.
The
I
moment
think
I open
a
my
lot
mouth.
of us feel that way, that, they're going to say, you know what, I'm so sorry, I've made a huge mistake. You're a terrific actor, but it's not
But that
going to work.
happens.
Yeah.
People get fired for that very reason. They open their mouth, and by lunchtime, there's a powwow that happens.
Yeah.
And they're like gone.
Oh, I know. And I'm definitely paranoid about it every time. I mean, certainly in a play, I'm sure I'm going to be fired the second day.
Really?
Yeah.
Second day of rehearsals?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
Is there one that you like more than the other, because you started in theater, right?
Mm-hmm. I don't think so. I think it's all acting, It's acting's acting. It's just a size that's different. On stage you just talk louder.
Yeah.
And film, you just think louder. And that's sort of the difference.
What is like something that has just completely surprised you about the industry in the last 40 years?
Well, aside from the audition process, the way into a job, I think there are a lot. I mean, there's a lot more a possibility. There's a lot more, I hope they cut to you yawning. I really do.
You know what
because
it's from? It's from the headache.
I know, but I don't want them to know that. I want them to think I'm boring you.
No, it's from the headache and me just trying to keep it from coming back.
It's okay. When I started, there were 3 TV channels.
I know.
And now there's so many. You'd think you'd work all the time,
You'd think.
I mean, I used to work all the time when there were only 3 TV channels. And now there's just this massive amount of stuff that's being made. And I also kind of wonder, how do I not get up for everything? If I got up for everything, surely I would. But to be fair, my agents and managers do try to get me up for a lot of stuff. And I'm the problem, and I'm constantly having to apologize to them and say, you know what, I thank you so much for, but I just don't want to go in on this. And a lot of it is I don't want to do the work, particularly for tape. I don't want to do the work it requires, knowing full
you're not
well
gonna get it.
I'm not going to get it.
I know. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
I think also part of it is that our industry is so global now.
Mm-hmm.
And because it tapes, it puts everyone on the same playing field.
Yeah.
And you've got people auditioning, for a role to play an American in every country that you can think of.
Yes, it's true.
And so it's before was just you're auditioning against people in California, maybe in New York, some other places that, that sent in tapes, like Canada.
Yeah.
The Canadian actors I talk to, they're the ones that have been putting themselves on tape forever.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's there might be more but there's also more actors.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely true. There are many, many more people doing it. I know when I was a kid and I was in high school, and I went to a great high school, and my teacher was phenomenal, and my class was phenomenal. I had a lot of people who are now in the business who were in my high school drama class.
Oh, crazy!
And, yeah, and
are you from California?
No, I'm from Houston, Texas, and but I had this great teacher who really nurtured people and made. I mean, this guy I've talked about him before. His name's Cecil Pickett, and he just made me feel I had something to offer, and I think he did that to a lot of people. But I had both of the Quaid brothers were in my classes, Randy and Dennis, and
really?
Tommy Shalami, who produced, The West Wing and is one of the best directors television's ever seen.
In high school?
In high school. And even...
That's crazy. I mean, if you'd said college, I would have been like, oh, yeah, I mean, I get that.
Yeah.
But high school?
Yeah. And even Marianne Williamson, who ran for president, was in our high school drama class. And...
what was in the water?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, it was his teacher. He was able to say, hey, you've got something. Let's work on it. And but when I went to New York to be an actor, that was a weird thing for someone in my class to be doing. It it was, but now it's like so many people are going for it, and because there's so much possibility now.
Which is so weird because the industry has changed so much that there's a part of me that when people are like, what advice would you give someone who wants to be an actor? And in the back of my mind, I'm going, don't.
Yeah. Well, I get that. I get asked that. And my pat answer is, well, I remember somebody asked Gregory Peck that, and he said, always fly first class. And, but I thought, yeah, good idea. But I tell people, look, here's the thing. If there's anything else you can do that. Not because it's not wonderful to be part of this business, but it's so difficult. And if you have it in your mind that if this doesn't work out, I'm going to do this, go ahead and do that. Because the people I know who were successful are people who couldn't be
anything else
discouraged and could only do that. And they were focused on that. And whatever happened, come what may. And those are the people who became successful.
It's true. It's I never had a plan B.
No, you can't have a plan B.
No, I wouldn't even know what I could have done.
Right. And if you do have a plan B, do the plan B. Because your shot is going to be way better at succeeding at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. It's so true. Is your son in the industry?
Well, he went to film school. He just graduated from film school.
Yeah.
And he wants to be a writer. And I mean, he could be an actor. He may wind up there one day. I don't know. But he's a very creative guy and really smart and really funny and writes really well. And so I've got high hopes for him. And I would never try to discourage him from doing it because I can see that's where he's supposed to be. But most of the kids of people who are in the business that I know want to do that. It's family business.
I know.
And most of my friends who are actors who have kids, their kids want to be actors.
It's my biggest fear, though.
I know, but me too. But, what can you say? I know. You wanted to do it.
I know. Yeah. And it scared my parents because they weren't in the industry. So, and they didn't even live in California. So, at least if our kids wanted to go this direction, I could at least try and help navigate a little bit for them with them.
But then they do get to this place where they don't want your help,
Of course.
And as it should be.
What made you want to be an actor?
You know what? I don't know. I guess, I'll tell you what, I can remember probably the first time I kind of had a sense of it. We lived in a 2-story house when I was a little kid. And I remember falling down the stairs in my house and my whole family being at the bottom of the stairs, laughing when I hit the bottom of the stairs. And I thought, ooh, this pain was worth it. I love that laugh, you know. And I think just the joy that big filled up, you know. Plus, you know, there's got to be a certain degree of neuroticism in it. I mean, you know, just the need to have massive approval. It's got to be something going on, you know, that you need that.
Yeah, I think so.
And certainly everybody who does it has that need, don't you think?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I think that there was an inherent desire to prove that I could do something that was difficult.
Exactly.
Yeah.
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 And it's not necessarily about, I mean, it is for some people, but it's not necessarily about not being, you know, coming from a family who loved you or anything like that. But just that need for everyone to think you're wonderful. You know, it's really sick.
It really is sick.
Yeah, it is.
It really is sick.
Yeah.
What conventions do you have coming up?
Oh, I've got a few. I was in El Paso, Texas last weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was kind of cool. I mean, El Paso's a cool little town.
El Paso's
actually.
cool.
Yeah. And, you know, conventions also, there are a lot of different aspects to it. You know, it's like back in the day, I thought I would never do that.
Oh, I know, me too.
And did you know Scott Wilson?
No.
Scott Wilson was a really great actor. He was on Walking Dead, but you might remember him from In Cold Blood, the movie In Cold Blood.
Okay.
He was one of the two killers.
Yeah.
It was Scott and Robert Blake were the two killers.
Right.
And he did a lot of other really great films and stuff. But he's in The Great Gatsby with Redford and all kinds of stuff. But he was saying that, for him, it was like almost like, you know, you do these panels where you just talk and you ask questions and you know, and it was kind of like being on stage, and he'd never been on stage before. And
Yeah.
he said, oh, this must be what it feels like. And also, in the old days, in the days of the Lunts, Alfred Lunt and Lynn Fontaine were the great acting couple of their time. And they would do a play, and then they'd take the play and do it all across America, in towns all across America. And then when they'd open a new play in New York, all those people that had seen them all across America who were now in New York seeing them would go, oh, I want to go see the Lunts because I saw them in my town.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something about making contact with all of these people that we come into contact with creates sort of a personal relationship. And so then they want to watch whatever it is you do. And that's a nice feeling. And also, it took us a while, I think, most of us, at least on our show, to get it that it brings a different sort of joy to people to meet them.
Yeah.
And so that's been really good. But the best part for me is that I get to hang out with my friends.
Yeah.
You know, and we wind up going to dinner and, you know, we work all day and then we go to dinner and we're sitting around at dinner and we go, this is the best part of all of it. And
it really is.
It is.
You know,
It's really
not only
nice.
getting to hang out with friends, but also like, you know, see people and meet people that you enjoy
and admire. And I mean, we basically got to know each other from Comic-Cons. Yeah. But I'm always shocked, you know, because more and more people do them now. And, you know, people you never expect to meet.
I know.
Like John Cleese, you know? I mean, I never thought I would meet John Cleese. And
Margaret.
And Margaret. And, you know, at this one in El Paso, Vince D'Onofrio was there. And Vince is a great guy. And I worked with him years ago. But it's a whole different thing now. And so it's always fun to see who's there and get to meet them and talk to them. And it's a fun experience.
Yeah. No, I love it. You wrote an entire project about
fans. Yeah.
What's is that fully based in reality?
No.
No.
No. I mean, I wrote this book, fan fiction. Mm-hmm. Did we talk about it before?
No, we didn't.
Yeah, I wrote a book called Fan Fiction. It was a it's a novel. I call it a memoir.
I know, which I love.
Yeah, because it's a thriller. It's a comedy. It's a thriller. It's part memoir. It's part novel. It's just kind of its own beast. But and then I say at the beginning, none of it's true. But that basically is so I don't get sued. But it takes place somewhere in the third season or fourth season of Next Generation. And it was inspired, I say, by true events. And there is a convention scene in it, which was simple to write because I've been to a few and kind of want to reflect. But I reflect on what it's about primarily is about not just, well, the theme of it at heart is that we're all fans. And I think the most important thing in it, even though I'm talking about other fans, is it's clear, I think, in the piece that I'm a huge fan too. And that, by the way, is part of why I think we're all doing this, is I want to be like that guy. I mean,
yeah.
My son and I were watching the Maltese Falcon last night and just seeing, Bogart and Peter Lorre and Sidney Greenstreet and all of that. And my memory of being a kid and just being overwhelmed by by those guys and wanting to be those guys or working with those guys. And just to play in the big leagues was an exciting proposition.
Well, I mean, you definitely have.
I have at times.
Yeah, you've gotten to really, really play in your career.
Yeah, I mean, I've had some wonderful experiences. I mean, I've been really lucky, and I've had times where I've had to pinch myself because of who I was working with, and that's the best. It's just incredible. Is
there anyone that I mean, people ask me this all the time, and I can never quite pick. But is there someone you've always wanted to work with?
Yeah, but they're dead. No.
Well, that ship sailed.
Yeah, that ship sailed. But I've gotten to work with people who, because somehow I was lucky in that I got to be. Well, I guess everybody is to a certain degree. If they do it long enough, that I kind of got to touch on some of the golden age of people who are gone now.
Yeah.
I mean, I worked with Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau and
wow.
And a lot of people, Donald O'Connor, and it was a thrill. These were the people I watched on TV. I couldn't, or at the movies when I was a kid. I mean, I wish I could work with. The fact is, I wish I could work with everybody.
I know.
Because I really do love everybody's work. I mean, there are very few actors that I don't think are fantastic. Most of the time, and directors, I mean, I've been really lucky. And there's a lot of directors I'd like to work with, particularly younger, newer directors. But I want to work with all of them. I'd love to work with everybody.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too. I'm starting to get dizzy.
Are you?
You guys, I'm starting to get dizzy.
Well,
I'm starting to.
Well, let's.
Yeah. Do we?
We could finish.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you don't need to get sick doing this.
My brain is starting to. It's unraveling.
Hey, let's wrap it up.
It's unraveling.
Yeah.
But I feel like I want to talk to you forever.
Well,
and of course this happened today when I've been so excited to talk to you. And
I know.
My brain is failing me.
Because we mainly talked about me. I want to talk about you.
Oh, we don't need to talk
So
about
just
me.
Tell me one thing.
What's that?
Who's the worst person you ever worked with? You don't have to say the name.
I'll give you the initial.
Yeah, give me the initial.
I have to think of the worst person I've ever worked with.
Okay.
Oh, no, I can't do that.
Okay, just give me the initial.
No, people would know.
Just by the initial?
Yeah.
Because this is the only person with that initial? Really? Wow. So, was it Zero Mostel?
Yes.
Oh, I knew it. Dang.
This has been amazing. I mean, it's been sheer hell on
I'm
my
so
side.
sorry. I mean, what a drag for you.
Well,
thank God I was fascinating because this would have been impossible.
It's true. And
Yeah.
I hate that you have to sit in traffic now for 2 hours.
I know that is a drag.
This
I
was
have to
not
say.
worth it for you.
I'm not looking forward to it.
It's
but
not worth it for you. We should have done this over Zoom.
It's okay. I'll listen to CNN or something on the way home.
Today Explained is a really good podcast.
Exactly.
The building's on fire.
Yes.
Just kidding. Thank you again. I really appreciate it. I'm glad that we got to do this again. I hate the circumstances at the first podcast.
Well,
It's awful. I'm glad you still have your jacket.
Yeah, I was really careful not to check my phone while we did this in case bad news is out there right now.
Don't. If it's bad enough, an alert comes up
Okay.
and rings and says, "Get out."
Yes, exactly.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Hindsight. I am still Katee, and I am joined by Jeff Porter. Hi, Jeff.
I'm afraid that I'm going to have a near-death experience doing this hindsight. It's like...
I honestly, this entire episode, the crazy thing is that I felt moved. Here, I just want to make sure that my t-shirt is showing for those of you that are at home.
Save national parks. Yeah.
Save national parks.
It's hard to disagree.
Hard to disagree with that. So I almost wanted to shoot a part 3 to this episode. I haven't felt so bad about an episode since Paulina.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that is literally during his second part, I literally was having flashbacks of the first Paulina attempt where I had that horrible migraine and was vomiting and had to cancel her.
Well, do you want to fill the audience in on what happened to you after this interview?
Yeah. So let's fill the audience in. So I come to the studio. I flew to California. I had some meetings. I had some doctor's appointments. I was also staying at my wonderful friend, Sandra Hess's house, who's married to Michael Trucco, which is also the house I was staying at when the Paulina incident happened. So I don't know what the fuck's going on. But so I fly in, I go to my doctor's appointments, I meet Sandra. I don't eat all day, which is very similar to what happened with the Paulina thing. I didn't have enough water. It was smoggy in California that day. I had 2 glasses of wine, which is nothing. I mean, I've literally talked to doctors about this. That was nothing.
Right.
And went to sleep. They have cats. I'm also allergic to cats.
Yeah.
And woke up the next day, felt fine.
Yeah.
Stopped by Starbucks, came to the studio. By the time I was about halfway through my first interview.
Yes, we recorded 2 that day, and there's one coming up, and we won't say who because we'll save it for a surprise.
We'll save it.
It's a good one, though.
It's a good one. I ended that interview early.
Yeah.
I could have talked to her for 30 more minutes.
Yeah.
I didn't because I was like, I'm going to vomit. I'm going to throw up. Something's going on. I don't know what's happening with me. I could sort of feel during that interview, this sort of for anybody that's had a migraine before, the
tunnel vision type thing.
Where your eyes start to go.
Yeah.
And then the lights were making it worse.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't know what to do. And if you watch that interview, I think you can start to see me sort of pushing on my neck a little bit during that interview. Anyway, so I ended that interview early, which also frustrates me because I was having such a wonderful conversation with her. Looked at you, said, I need to take a nap.
Yeah.
Laid down on the couch, was finally starting to feel a little bit better.
Couch right here.
With that couch. And then Brent, God love him, showed up 30 minutes early for his interview.
Yeah.
Because
he's
he
driving from Malibu.
2 hours from Malibu because of the fires have closed so many roads.
Yeah.
So he gets there early. He agrees to disappear for 30 minutes so I can keep sleeping because I feel awful.
That was just him and I talking in the front office, which was great for me. I had a great time.
So I literally take a nap. I get up. I manage to get through the interview, but I'm getting worse. I'm literally getting worse throughout that entire interview. And it's
obvious too. Like we can see you fading.
I mean, it's so clear to me that I'm going to start throwing up soon in this interview, and that I don't know what to do.
And if you
just ended it.
Yeah.
I basically ended it. I was like, I've got to end this interview. I'm going to throw up.
And people just watch this interview, so they can probably know what we're talking about here.
Yeah. And as soon as the interview was over, I went in the other room and I did throw up. And then I looked.
And by the other room, you mean the bathroom?
The bathroom.
Yeah.
Which is literally just on the other side. So I'm sure that was fun to listen to. And then I emailed my travel agent immediately and said, can you get me on an earlier flight home? I emailed my manager and said, I can't meet that director that I was really looking forward to meeting right afterwards, canceled that. And then I looked at you and said, can you take my rental car to the rental place? And you said, yes.
Yes.
And I ordered myself an Uber, and within 2 hours, I was on a flight home.
Yeah, you brought your village together to help get you back home.
And by the time I slept. I got in that Uber, and for an hour and 20 minutes, I was out.
Yeah.
I was knocked out of sleep. And by the time I got to the airport and got on that plane, I had pushed that migraine down just a little bit, got home, made it through.
Yeah.
The next night, I went to the emergency room.
Yeah.
The next night.
Yeah, everything finally came out.
Yeah. I called my GP and I said, these are my symptoms. 3 days ago, I had a chest pain so severe I fell to the ground. But it went away immediately.
Spoiler.
I don't know if anyone, have you ever had that bubble thing where you're like,
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
But it hurt so bad, I hit the floor.
Yeah.
And then rubbed it out and was like, fuck. And Robin was like, oh my God, are you okay? And I was like, I'm fine. Fuck, that hurt. That was weird.
Yeah.
Pushed it off. It was also my birthday. And I saw those 2 messages on social media about that I'm going to die. And that I'm old. I got on a plane, went through all of the things that I went through, which led to a migraine, which then led to my left arm was tingling.
At this point, I wonder if anybody's guessing where this is going.
So I call my doctor and she says to me, I don't want to alarm you because I'm sure you're fine.
Yeah.
But you have checked every box for a heart attack.
Yeah.
And she said, you need to go to the emergency room. And I was like, fuck. Can I wait till I put the kids down? Because I don't want to leave Robin with that much.
80.
Because we just sat down to dinner.
Yeah.
And Robin looks at me and he goes, fucking go to the emergency room. And I was like, okay. So I drove myself to the emergency room. And I get there and I say, so my doctor told me to come because I have all of the symptoms of a heart attack. She went, great. Who drove you? And I went, I drove myself. Like, fuck. Anyway, so I didn't have a heart attack.
Well, you didn't, or?
I did not, obviously.
Well, you came damn close.
But what the general consensus was that I had a 3-day panic attack.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you're better. I'm glad you survived.
Thanks.
But I also think that if there was any question about you being a badass, you have just proven that you are, in fact, a badass. Not that that's necessarily healthy, but
I don't know.
But,
I don't know.
But you are. I mean, you're truly living up to the reputation that you've set in your work here. I mean, what a Starbuck thing to do. Like, I'll drive myself.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. And then I sat there once they realized that like they did the chest x-rays and they took my blood. And I think they realized that I like had not had a heart attack because they can test for that.
Yeah.
Which is great, especially because if I did have a heart attack, it was 3 days before.
Yeah.
And it would have shown up in my blood at that point.
Right.
If you go to the emergency room right when you've had the heart attack, you actually kind of have to wait 6 hours is what I found out. So they finally admit me because I walk out and I was like, okay, I've been here for 4.5 hours. It's clear I'm not having a heart attack.
Right.
You guys would have taken me back. Can you please take this IV out so I can go home?
Yeah.
And because you can't leave with an IV in your arm.
It's not advised, at least.
Not advised. So I go back and they literally hook me up to the heart rate monitor. They get me ready. The doctor comes in and he goes, we're going to get you out of here right now. And I was like, okay. And he goes, you're fine. I went, I'm pretty sure I know that now. And he went, yeah. And he was like, he goes, I think you probably had a panic attack. And I went for 3 days and he went, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it was a stressful time and you had a lot of triggers that set you off in a certain way. So, I mean, it makes sense.
I did, including the migraine, which brought on the vomiting, but those are both side effects of like a heart attack. So it's like all of these things came together.
It makes sense though, because I mean, I remember when I was in college, I went to the emergency room because I started to have these like heart palpitation feelings and like, you know, I felt like I couldn't breathe and stuff like that. And I went to the emergency room and the doctor very nicely just told me, take some Advil. She didn't outright tell me I was having a panic attack, but I think she was kind of basically like, you're fine and everything. And it wasn't until years later when someone described to me what a panic attack was that I was like, oh, that's what that was. And, you know, they can be confused for that. And
they can be terrifying. And I would love to tell you that this is the first one that I've ever had.
Well,
and it's not.
No.
I've had quite a number of them, and they're usually when I'm traveling.
Yeah.
I had one of the first ones I've had two really bad ones where I like went to the emergency room.
Yeah.
One of them was when we were doing press for Battlestar Galactica. We were in New York. It was during the Letterman thing where we went on the Late Show and did a thing. And I think it was just all of the press and all of the everything was just too much for me. And I hyperventilated, which I felt like I couldn't breathe, but oddly enough, I was breathing too much, I guess.
Yeah.
And so I went to the emergency room and they put me on oxygen and then they sent me home, back to the hotel anyway. And then I did press the whole next day. Fucking awful.
You live quite a stressful life. I mean, you're traveling all the time. You've got 2 young kids. You're doing all these things. So it's not that crazy that it would happen, but you know, are you doing anything now to mitigate this, to try to help yourself?
So I started meditating again. I wake up every morning and I write my journal, which has been very helpful for me.
Yeah.
But I'm learning to say no.
Yeah.
So somebody said to me the other day, I've talked about my life coach a little bit, life coach sort of, for lack of a better term right now. And she said to me, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
It's very
and just because
good
you
advice.
can doesn't mean you need to right now.
Right.
Not right now, you know, like, and I think that's something that's really, it's partially why I canceled Brussels this last weekend. I realized that I was trying to do too much.
Yeah.
And just because on paper it looks possible, doesn't necessarily mean that I should do it.
Yeah. Yeah. We've talked about this in the past and you talked about it with some previous guests, but it's sort of that, what do we call it? The good child syndrome, where you do feel a sense of like, you know, it's more than just if I can do it, I will do it. It's more like you feel this obligation to do it, you know, and I know that there's a lot of that with your particular situation because, you know, you are going out and meeting people who are spending money and it's very important to them and everything. And I understand the obligation you would feel to like make that happen for somebody.
Yeah.
But it is important to balance it out with your own health. And I think those same people that want to see you and want to meet you also want you to be healthy.
Don't want me dead.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different convention experience when you're dead.
Right. Well, I think it's funny. I value hustle.
Yeah.
Like hustle is a thing. Robin and I were talking about this. Because I have hustled my whole life.
Yeah.
I was raised by two people that hustled. Like my dad is almost 80 and he still hustles.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily the healthiest thing.
No, it is important to understand your boundaries and not hit the wall accidentally.
Yeah, it just sucks though, right? Because I was to bring it to Brent and the person that we had on right before, when somebody goes out of their way and comes into the studio, or even just takes the time to do the podcast, like Paulina, and whether in my control or outside of my control, something goes wrong and we have to cancel, or I don't feel good, or, in that situation with Brent, I could have talked to him for another hour or two. And I wish that I could have.
Yeah.
But it was very clear to me that I was not okay.
Yeah.
And the guilt I have, the fact that he drove 2 hours there and then 2 hours back.
Yeah.
And we only talked for an hour.
Yeah.
I have so much guilt over that and so much disappointment. And those are things I have a really hard time, because I feel like I let him down. I feel like I disappointed him, or I made him feel like he wasn't a priority and he wasn't special to me.
Yeah.
And that sucks. I hate that.
I don't think that he felt that at all, though. I mean, just based off of the conversation with him, I think he obviously wanted to be there because what he talked about in the conversation is how he only takes work and does stuff. And he said he doesn't want to do podcast, but he did 2 for you.
I know. And I almost made him do a third one.
Yeah, but I think
that'd be really funny to have him pop back in again.
I think we'll have him back
5
again.
5 hours of
he's
Brent
now a recurring character on this podcast, so we'll have him back. And I think, I spoke to him a little bit after the podcast just to let him know that you got back. And I know you did as well. And I think he was just concerned about you, and making sure you were okay. And I don't think he felt any disappointment in the experience or the day,
Good. Because I hate that. I hate letting people down.
No.
But let's just talk about that episode though.
Yeah.
Holy fuck.
Yeah. What a ride.
I think that just the fact that nobody dreamed that fire was.
I mean, even just listening to us or you, I talked to him a little bit on the recording as well, towards the end there when he got the text message from his son that he needs to go. Both of us were jumping in and being reassuring him that it was okay. I think he felt that kind of feeling that you were just talking about, oh, I'm letting her down by going. And we're both no, go. It's fine. This is just a podcast. And, you mentioned at the beginning that his audio was a little bad, and that's because we're having him record on his computer, but he doesn't have a computer anymore. The computer,
he left it there.
He left it there, and the computer was destroyed, and the audio file that we were recording for him. So we just have the Zoom audio of him, which is not the greatest, but it works.
You know what I think, what's just crazy to me, is that they moved already once before
because of fire.
Because of fires.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just crazy to me. I have a girlfriend of mine who lost her house in the Altadena fire, and decided to move to Topanga Canyon.
Yeah.
It's this is a thing. This is there are people that are this is just one of the things that we deal with in order to live in the places that we want to live in.
Yeah. Did you see the house in the Palisades that survived? It was the house that was made out of it was purposely built to survive wildfires, and it did.
Yes.
It's an all concrete house with all these different things about it that make it fireproof. I feel like as they're rebuilding, every house is going to look like that.
It's going to have to.
Yeah.
But at the same time, do you want to live there right now?
I don't know.
Someone told me the other day that the water is so toxic right now that you wouldn't go surf, or you shouldn't go surf.
Well, no,
right there.
we're being told because every summer here in LA, we like to go to the beach. We have friends that we do like beach trips and everything. And this year it's going to be different because the ocean water is not even safe to go in still because of all the runoff from the burning houses and everything. So you guys talked a lot about him as a character, playing this particular character, and his willingness to be in other projects, which I found sort of interesting because as an actor, he has reached a point, and like, while you're in similar circles with him, you're not quite reached the same type of thing yet, because Data as a character is just, you could keep having that character back in so many things. Like Starbuck, probably never going to see her again. Bo-Katan, hopefully we'll see her again, but she's not in that level of like, she's not Luke Skywalker. She's not Princess Leia.
No. She's not Hayden.
Right. She's not some of those people. Like, as much as people want you back and would love to see you back in that character, it's not Data level. You're not main cast.
No. I have not played a character that is not only a floater, meaning that you could float. Like Bo-Katan could potentially float into different series.
Yeah.
So but she's not necessarily, like you said, a lead character in the overarching, overarching.
I think it's both. I think it depends on how you want to say it.
Star Wars story as a whole. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So I found that interesting for him because most of his professional work over the last 40 years has been playing that one character. And while he's done other things and had some interesting turns, like I love his character in Independence Day, specifically in the sequel. I don't know if you watched the sequel.
I did not watch the sequel. Was it great?
No, but it's great in a big budget Hollywood disaster movie way. And his character,
disaster shit.
I mean, it's a movie that me and my friends all went after having a couple of drinks and saw it at the theater at Navy Pier in Chicago. And,
sounds great.
But his character in that movie is amazing. Like he's clearly the best part of that movie in my mind. Like he makes the sequel so worth it. And it's great.
He is a phenomenal character actor.
Yeah.
Do you remember his character in Night Court?
I don't. I didn't really watch I did watch Night Court way back in the day, but my dad watched it because I think everybody in America was watching it. And
you didn't watch Night Court. We'll play.
I did.
Once we get to
I just don't remember his character.
We'll play a clip of his character because it's one of my favorite characters from Night Court.
Yeah.
So
I do remember looking it up when we were prepping for his recording, but we'll look it up and play it there. But
he's just so incredibly talented. And the fact that he, wrote his own show that was on YouTube for a while.
Yeah, that's hilarious too, which
it's hilarious.
I should find the name of that real quick.
And then
Fresh Hell.
Fresh Hell. How funny.
Yeah, it's very funny. If you guys haven't seen it, Fresh Hell is great. It's also got a lot of other Star Trek actors in it that cameo in it as themselves. It's sort of like Fresh Hell is sort of the story of what we're talking about here, with him being picky about what he wants to take and everything like that. And I wonder if that's a result of having this character that he is always there for him, like I know there's some, nowadays residuals aren't what they used to be, but like he's got that sort of foundation of a character where he's gotten to the point where, and I don't know how much this is true. I know sometimes people assume that, somebody in that position is just loaded or can do whatever they want. It may truly just be he just, and also conventions he can always do. Like he's in a position that is really sort of envied by a lot of people.
He is. I mean, it's one of the things as an actor during the strike and also now, like actors, not a lot of actors are working.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone is so envious of sci-fi actors because of the convention circuit.
Yeah.
It's so much so that there are actors that have never done sci-fi that are now doing sci-fi conventions, which we have talked about on this show a lot. And because it is another level of fandom and a piece of this industry. Who are we talking to about this where they used to go to the the conventions when they were younger. Oh, I was talking to Ron Howard about this.
Yeah, I haven't had any conversations with Ron Howard recently.
I was talking to Ron Howard about this back in the day when he was a child actor, that they actually would fly them into fairs and things like that, where they would basically be doing a convention circuit.
Right.
And he and I spoke about that. So it really is something that is being more and more recognized, accepted, applauded, and utilized by just actors in this profession.
Yeah. And he clearly is somebody who's been steeped in it for a long time. You guys talked a little bit about his book, which when we were prepping for this, I found out about it and I read it. More specifically, I listened to the audiobook, which is really great because it's got...
Does he do the audio?
He does the audio, and because it's set, and he talked about this in the interview, it's set during the 3rd season of Next Gen. He has all the Next Gen people come and do their own voices. So LeVar Burton's in it, Jonathan Frakes is in it, Patrick Stewart is in it, Gates McFadden,
Marina Sirtis
is in it. They're all in it. Yeah, they're all in it, and it's incredible. It's really good.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's worth a listen.
It's they are such a family. You know, we talked about this even with Will Wheaton.
Yeah,
they are. That show and Battlestar Galactica are families, unlike I've really witnessed with other shows, at least in the sci-fi circuit. Now, granted, you know, that could exist in another show. I've never witnessed it because they don't go to sci-fi conventions.
Yeah.
But those two shows are just family.
Yeah, I think my assumption is that's a result of it just being... They were there sort of at the birth of the modern fan convention. Like there always were those fan conventions, but they really were the OGs in the sense of like it blowing up to what it is now. And, you know, they've been doing this since the late 80s. And as Brent talked about in this episode, he goes to hang out with his friends. Like, you know, I mean, you know what it's like. You're seeing these people, you know, a couple times a month sometimes. And it's like you have this great little like summer camp vibe every time you're there. That's gonna...
Yeah, but we also see each other all the time, as do they.
Yeah.
Like we are, you know, we see each other all the time. Whenever I'm in LA, I stay at somebody's house that was in Battlestar Galactica. You know, and so does Trisha.
Yeah.
So we're just, we're all family.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really wonderful. I can't wait to see those guys again.
Yeah. And then we'll have Brent back.
We'll have him back. I'd love to work with him someday.
Yeah, me too.
He's so smart.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll write something for me. You never know.
Well, when you eventually get on Star Trek, maybe they'll make you like something to do with Data. You'll be like,
I want to get on Star Trek so bad, but also really just so I can go to that big convention in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
I mean, I need to be at that convention.
I would love for you to just go as a fan, though.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine if you're waiting
like someone?
Yeah, you're like wearing a Starfleet uniform and you could even do your makeup, but I also love the idea of just you just standing in line waiting to get Brent Spiner's autograph.
You know what, Jeff? We should do an entire fucking bit. We should dress me up completely unrecognizable.
Yeah.
Like get makeup, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And wait in these guys' lines.
Yeah.
And like have like a whole character where I play a character. I talk to them about how much they've meant to me, the whole deal. I get photos taken with all of them.
Yeah.
Then we put it online.
I think, I'm down.
We need a big budget. We need a bigger budget. We gotta figure something out.
We should probably move on to the mail sack.
We should move on to the mail sack.
All right.
Mail sack. We're going to the mail sack. Mail sack. Why are we calling it mail sack?
That slow drone is how you felt at the end of this interview.
It is. That's how I felt, but just with a massive crash at the bottom.
Where can people email us?
People, you can email us at the Sackhoff Show at gmail.com. And And you can also join our Patreon, patreon.com/The Sackhoff Show. And, we have a lot of questions there as well. That we have a little section over there called AMA, Ask Me Anything, and I respond back. So you could do that as well.
Yep.
Comments. Starkiller99 says, in the mail sack section, that comment that gave you a panic attack sometimes gives me one too, but I think it's more important that you treasure and enjoy your life with as few regrets as possible. There's no point thinking about something you can't do anything about. Like you, I still feel like I'm in the prime of my life and have so much to look forward to and do. I hope that brings you some comfort if that thought ever resurfaces again. I appreciate you, but no, it does not.
We had a lot of people trying to be nice and reach out to you, and you talked about I believe it was on the Will Wheaton episode where you talked about, those couple of comments, and then which we're now revealing were at around the time that all this was happening. So I thought it would be nice to pull some of these where people are being nice to you.
No, and I love it, and I truly appreciate everyone reaching out. It really means the world. The person who actually posted that is a patron, and he apologized and said that he had no intention of putting me in that spiral, which of course you didn't.
Right.
And no, I agree with you. I agree with living every day to its fullest, and I do practice this on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I just also have an intense fear of death.
Yeah. Well, death can be scary.
So, I mean, they concurrently exist in my brain, but I do understand that. Thank you so much. And I also, it's one of those things that, one of my favorite sayings is don't borrow trouble. Don't worry about things that you can't fix or do anything about today.
Sure.
But also, I think that you can sort of do something about it. If you have this intense, like I do, sort of fear of death, live a very healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
Work out, eat as healthy as you can. Don't worry too much about it. Don't be crazy about it. And deal with your stress.
Yeah.
Knock on wood.
Yeah. Don't just lock yourself up in a room and never talk to anybody and
yeah, exactly.
Let your fingernails grow long. Don't do that.
Don't do that. Don't be that person.
Yeah.
Andy Z Music says, Katee, I know you don't need us to tell you this, but you totally are in the prime, and I believe you will be as long as you decide to keep doing what you do. Actually, no matter what you do. I don't know you, but I just feel like that's who you are. I'm 57 and I have been a family kids music artist for 24 years. Oh my gosh, I love that. And believe me, I've wrestled personally with the am I too old on the downside, etc. But the truth is I'm not. By the way, I so want you to see you in a Star Trek universe today. Thank you so much. I agree.
That's sweet.
I wonder if I've listened to any of his music.
I don't know. Send us some Andy Z music.
Andy, send us some. Mark Rothenberg, 7788, said, I was fine turning 50 until the AARP sign-up letter came the next day in the mail. No shit, right? Like that moment when you realize you could go to movies. I am serious, though, that the moment Trisha gets her AARP card, I want to go get a discount.
Yeah.
Somewhere with her. I want to get her dinner.
She's taking you to dinner everywhere. She's taking you to movies. She's getting that senior discount everywhere. I went to the local, we have a public pool near our house, and I went with Allison, and they have senior pricing, but their senior pricing is pretty low. It's like 55 or something.
Yeah.
Or no, I think it's even
senior.
I think it's even lower. I think it's like 45 at this place. Like if you're over 45, you get a lower, they don't call it senior, but they give you a discount.
They call it geriatric.
And we went to go pay for our day passes, and I handed the lady like $20 or something like that. And she looked at me for a long time, and I was like waiting for her to give my change back. She goes, which one are you? I was like, I'm 40. I'm not. It's like, it might have been even 50. Like it might have been 50. And she just didn't know that I was under 50.
Oh my God, that's like when somebody doesn't know if you're pregnant, so they just don't say anything.
Mm-hmm. The poor woman just looked at me for the longest time, like she did not want to say one way or the other. And
oh my
It was like,
oh my God, I'm so sorry.
That's
That
all right.
sucks.
Yeah.
That sucks. All right, here's some emails. Matthew just wanted to drop a quick line to let you know how much I enjoy your show. Thank you, Matthew. I listen to every episode during commutes and even stick around for the hindsight. The Will Wheaton episode was a treasure. He exudes positivity. I want to put his quote about kindness on a coffee mug or a shirt. I agree with you completely. I did have a question you might like to ask future guests. Why is it that sci-fi has always been able to showcase progressive themes and storylines where other genres fall? Growing up, I watched the original Star Trek series in a syndication with my father. I was exposed to stories about racism, season 1, episode 15, Let That Be Your Last Battlefield, to one of the first interracial kisses on television, season 3, episode 10, Plato's Stepchild. With Ahura, I was exposed to strong women that other than job roles,
You want me to make this bigger?
Other than job roles held herself on par with the men. Doctor Who was known for never using a weapon. Thanks for making him bigger, Jeff. Never using weapons and doing his best to avoid killing throughout the run. Anne Lockhart was introduced as the perfect foil for Apollo in her role as Sheba during the original BSG. These themes continue today with the roles that Gates McFadden, Dr. Crusher, and Kate Mulgrew, Captain Janeway, performed in the Star Trek series. Yourself and Mary McDonnell in BSG. Jodie Whittaker taking on the role of the 13th Doctor was seen as controversial, but was executed in a way that allowed the role to evolve. Of course, you are able to repeat that strength in the role of bo-katan. No one is unequal with everyone around her. Those exposures during my younger years were quite formative. While I was always amazed by the cinematography and special effects, the complex stories and the characters are what bring me back. The strong female characters and complex stories should be embraced. I met Gates McFadden in Bosnia while she was on a USO tour in 1996. She exuded strength and I was instantly impressed. I always wanted to share how much that USO tour meant to me since it brought me back to watching Star Trek Next Generation with my father a decade prior. However, I'm not one for crowds and large conventions. Continue the great work. I shall continue listening and supporting the discussions you have with great performers, writers, showrunners, and whomever else you bring attention to.
Sorry, that was a long one. Sorry.
That's okay. That was a long one, Matthew. But we've talked about this a little bit in regard to Battlestar, and I guess it's not necessarily the progressive theme, but we've talked about this in regard to why Battlestar was able to be so topical. And with Ron Moore, we talked about how you saw suicide bombings. We talked about religion. We talked about politics. We talked about abortion. We talked about these things, these really, really important, heavy topics. And we were allowed to do it because science fiction, at least for us, everyone turned an eye and just went, oh, it's not real. That's a pretend show in a pretend world. Like you can talk about whatever you want because it's not real. And then I think that one of the most important things to do for me as a viewer is I don't want to be hit over the head with things. Like when I'm watching something, I don't want you to tell me what I should think and what my opinion about it should be.
Yeah.
You put the storyline out in front of me and you allow me to make up my own mind. That's good writing.
Yeah.
Ron Moore never told you what side you should be on.
Yeah.
He just wrote great, compelling stories and you were able to make up your own mind and have your own opinions about things.
Yeah.
And who you identified with.
Yeah.
And so I think that is important to progressive stories and topical stories as well. What do you think?
I mean, I think it's all that stuff is 100% true. I think science fiction in general has always been a way to ask questions about things and push boundaries about things in a way, as you said, that allows you to get away with it. The specific examples that he talked here about, like the racism and the interracial kiss, which is like famous in Star Trek for being the first time they did that. And it's sort of like it was allowed because it was this wild futuristic idea, you know, that this would happen in the future, you know, and so it was allowed and it broke barriers and pushed things down. And, you know, I think there's something more interesting behind the question because, you know, the writers and the creators of these shows are usually like curious, empathetic people who are asking these questions. Like Gene Roddenberry wasn't someone who didn't think, you know, people of different races should be able to get together. He clearly was somebody who was progressively minded and was thinking that these things should happen. I mean, Star Trek is a very progressive series on its own, and it was a way to get those ideas out there. And that can politically cause a lot of blowback. I know there's a lot of like, you know, people on the other side of the aisle who think that stuff is too woke or whatever like that. But at its basic level, it's a way to ask questions about those things. And I don't know, that's my thought on it.
I was called woke the other day by someone very close to me because
Because you wanted to save the state parks?
No, because I was telling them that the tone in which they use is hypercritical.
And
that
and they tried to prove you wrong by calling you woke.
that's woke talk.
You're like, see, that's what I'm talking about.
that you know, when you have a discussion with somebody and you're pointing out something that you wouldn't do, maybe you should think first and say, does this actually benefit them if they've already done it?
Right.
Like, you know, they didn't ask your opinion. Like maybe you should just let it go. Just let it go. Oh, well, I'm allowed to have an opinion. Like I'm allowed to tell them, like, that's criticism. That's good. People learn from that. Yeah, not really.
No, you're just an
not
asshole.
Really. That's just being an asshole.
Yeah.
Like, that's just and then I was told that that's woke thinking.
Yeah, it's woke.
It's a super sensitive woke thinking.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, it's also kind.
Oh, that's woke. Kindness is woke, Katee.
Yeah. On that note, thank you all so much for being here. We absolutely appreciate you. We are going to say goodbye to all of you and go into our Patreon extended version. But we love you all. We will see you next Tuesday. And that is what's up.